Hey guys, welcome to another webinar on revenue architecture with the guys from Winning by Design, the gurus actually of revenue architecture, and who else could tell us what is this whole revenue factory than the head of revenue architecture practice, Roee. Welcome to our webinar today.
Thank you. Great. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
So we will have a physical event actually in Krakow where you will come and tell us more about this topic. And thank you for doing this, and thank you for coming over to Krakow. But before, and for the people that will not be there, it's good to do an initial conversation, an initial webinar, or what is this whole revenue architecture, revenue factor, and why we actually need it. So the topic would be more of an introduction today. But before we head in, Ro, a few words about you would be great for the audience to get to know you.
Yeah. So my name is Roee Hartuv. I have a sales background, but today I'm heading the revenue architect practice at Winning by Design. Winning by Design, we are a B2B recurring revenue consulting and training agency. We help companies, mostly SaaS, but anything that is B2B recurring. But we help these type of companies build and design processes and go-to-market strategies for sustainable growth.
So
Um,
is this whole revenue architecture some new trend, or it was there, or what's the history of this whole practice?
it was. So we've been doing this and talking about revenue architecture for I would. Winning by Design was established 12 years ago by Jaco, our founder. We have doing some of it, but the term revenue architecture and all the frameworks and models that come with it, I would say last 5 to 6 years.
Mm.
However, nobody listened to us, or I should say nobody. But we've got when the market was always increasing, everybody was buying from everybody, money was cheap. Um, a lot of companies succeeded out there. Yeah, revenue architect was not really followed. But nowadays, when we're in this SaaS recession, ever since 2021, I think the term revenue architecture and the methodologies, the models are much more discussed and implemented
Mhm.
nowadays.
And let's talk about those frameworks. Maybe at one point in this discussion you can share your screen and show us. But
Mhm.
um, like what's like the basic framework or basic process that we need to start with to build this revenue factory? If you can uh,
Yeah,
tell us or show us, would be great.
yeah, fantastic. We'll do that. But maybe let's start off in defining the goal of a startup, right? And the goal of a
Yeah.
startup is to transform $1 million assets and turn them into $1 billion assets.
Yeah.
And we need to do that in a relatively short time frame. Now, the transformation is historically based on rapid growth that is accelerated by creating a low risk proposition for prospective customers, which is recurring revenue. Low risk meaning you can sign up, and if you don't like it, you can just churn and move on, right? That's the low risk that we give our customers. Now, there are two key elements in driving this transformation. Um, One is product innovation. This is where we always start off with. We need to
Yeah.
have a great product that solves a problem, and this is how we start off, and this is how we sell. And the focus for us as an organization in the beginning is all around the product.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, the focus shifts on go-to-market approach, which is basically how we're selling our products to our customers, and the importance shifts into the go-to-market approach over time. And and yeah, and the more mature we are, the more importance it is to focus on that go-to-market focuses.
So
Yeah.
so this go to market make, I mean, this whole revenue architecture makes sense when you already have the product market fit, right?
Yes. We
Like,
start off with product market fit. Like we can help you, or revenue architecture can does not focus on product. It cannot help companies that are still struggling to find that product market fit.
hmm. And how you see it, usually Series A or it's seed level, or at what stage of, or even a service business, because we have in our audience
Yeah.
also IT outsourcing companies.
Yeah, yeah.
Like at what stage in terms of revenue for the service companies, or in terms of funding rounds for startups, when does it make sense?
So fantastic question. It's all old conversation of what exactly is product market fit, right? And you ask three different people what product market fit, you'll probably get five answers.
Yeah.
If you ask an investor what product market fit means, they will say, "Hey, it's a Series A investor, let's say,"
Mm.
and they would say, "Hey, it's clear, $1 million in ARR and around 20 customers, depending on your ACV, but 20 customers."
Mm-hmm.
If you have that, that is a great indication of product market fit.
Mm-hmm.
When you ask a founder, how did you know that you reach product market fit? They would say, you know, when you reach it, when you get there.
Okay.
It's like riding a wave, right? For those of you who surf out there, we know that feeling, right? You're catching the wave. It's like shaky in the beginning, but at some point, it's like smooth sailing. And that's like, I've heard this analogy from one founder.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask winning by design, there's no clear numbers because it can happen before 1 million, can happen after 1 million, but it's all about if the first customers actually renew with you. That's where, because in a lot of cases,
Okay.
and I've
Makes
been in
sense.
company in one company that we had a fantastic sales pitch. It was easy for us to sell, so we got to
Mm.
10 million and above ARR. Honestly, we never had product market fit, and we saw that because 90% of our customers churn after the first year, or even before that, unfortunately. But yeah, that's what happened. So we believe that product market fit is when you have customers that keep on coming back. And yeah, it sometimes means that you need to have them for that first contract period, or at least have indications that they will renew, and that's, yeah, are they actually using the platform? Yeah.
Okay. So we have the product market fit. What's under the innovation? What's next? Is there a framework, or how do we get started?
Yeah, so let's connect that to revenue architecture. And revenue architecture talks about six models. And we use models to help us define and model recurring revenue businesses.
Mm-hmm.
When you think of it, if you don't use models, you're just working on gut feelings. Now, if you have a fantastic product, yeah, run with it. You don't need those structures and models in place. But most of the companies out there, we need to have models in order to grow and design and improve or focus on growth. Revenue architecture has six models, and connecting into where we are, the most relevant model to your question is the growth model. So working with hundreds of companies out there, we have identified similar patterns or different or similar challenges SaaS companies have experienced growing up. And this model, which we're going to share or we're sharing right now, talks about these milestones that we need to pass.
Okay.
So the first part when we're starting off is, hey, let's focus on getting our pricing, our revenue model correctly. What is our pricing that we want to go to market with?
Ooh, that's a hard one, I suppose.
What's that? Sorry.
That's a hard one.
That's a difficult one. But that's the first thing that we need to define. Once we do that, and usually at this point we still haven't found our product market fit. It's important to say. But at that point, we need to start focusing on, or the founders need to focus on selling. We want the founders to do the first selling before they actually start hiring people. It doesn't make sense to hire people when you don't have proven that there is some sort of demand for your product.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, usually you find your product market fit. So you're saying the founder has proven that they can sell, that people are willing to buy. And this is where your question connects to the data, to the growth model. And in this case, we say that the next step is defining a data model and a data structure.
Okay, so just going back to pricing, so the revenue architecture starts, just to reframe that, starts with the pricing.
Yes, the
Okay,
growth model starts with pricing, getting pricing right.
and this model of figuring out the pricing, what's like a time frame that it takes companies to say, okay, we are ready to move to the next model, which is the data model, right?
I don't think pricing is right or wrong. It's an
Okay.
ever changing
Okay.
definition, right? We keep on tweaking. We should, right? Of course, we don't want to change our pricing every 12 months, but that's something that is constantly developed and matured over time.
Okay.
So,
Can we find these frameworks or models somewhere in the resources of Winning
specifically
by?
on how to do correct pricing, no,
Uh-huh.
but defining high level overview of what is your monetization strategy. How are you going to make money? Is it based on um, ownership fixed upfront, such as perpetual software, or
Hmm.
recurring revenue? Recurring revenue is always in the middle, and that's
Hmm.
recurring based and consumption based. That's the other model. Now,
Hmm.
our framework doesn't say, hey, if you're doing consumption, you should charge $20 per API call. We don't get into that, but it's
Okay.
yeah. There's a lot of books and a lot of other resources out there that can help you do the correct pricing.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Okay, and then you have the data model, which says what exactly? Like,
The data model is a representation of the customer journey.
okay.
And when you think of it, most companies out there focus their data model only on the classical sales and marketing funnel. Marketing top of the funnel, all the way creates leads that convert into customers by sales at the top of at the bottom of the funnel. The winning
Hmm.
by design data model talks about that in recurring revenue, we need to also have the right side, which is everything that is post sale. And we need to monitor and track that as well. We
Hmm.
need to look at the entire customer journey from awareness all the way to renew and expansion in order to capture all the elements of a recurring revenue business. And why do
Okay.
I keep on saying recurring revenue? Because when you think of it, recurring revenue takes place after the contract is signed.
Yeah. Maybe I can share the screen. I found the SaaS methodology data
Mhm.
model. I think it would be relevant.
But yeah, I can
So
share it if you want. I've got it here.
yeah, sure,
All right.
sure. Please
So when we talked about now,
take your time.
I need to have two screens now. 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the growth model that we talked about, right? We've got pricing,
Mm-hmm.
founder led, and data model. So we're here. We're talking about the data model
Mm-hmm.
now.
So founder-led growth. Let just step back a bit
Yeah.
to. So okay. this, what you mean is that we need to get out of this founder-led growth motion, right? Like you.
That's right. We need to start
Okay.
off by the founders, and we're saying founder-led growth, not necessarily sales, because we know that in PLG, for example, we don't have sales team, but the
Mm-hmm.
founder is basically doing the services, very connected to the customers. Coding over the weekend, fixing problems. This is that type of growth. So it's not necessarily sales. In a lot of sales-driven companies, it is founder-led sales. So we expect the founder to do the initial sales to prove that people are willing to buy the product before we actually hire additional, very expensive people
Mm-hmm.
into the
Hmm.
sales team.
So from this chart, I can see that we have also the ARR basically, right?
Yes.
We have like, I suppose this is a benchmark that you guys have. And then the founder-led growth, it's around, I don't know, 3 million. And then when it makes sense, I'm just trying to understand when it makes sense to start doing these frameworks. Is it correct to assume that data model and structure, you start to do it when you are at 3 4 million ARR from this chart, or I should ignore that part?
Yeah, I think you should ignore it. It just gives you, like you see, it's also a logarithmic scale. It's just to
Okay.
give you an indication. So I wouldn't say, hey, it's 3 million, you have to do it there. But
Okay.
have you reached product market fit? Has the founder proven that they could sell?
Okay.
And then they can start hiring people. Once you start hiring people into the sales team, you need to have a data model and a data structure.
Okay. So what
Now,
does this data
we're 1 second before that, but I would
Yeah,
say, like, we're going to go much deeper when we meet in
in
Krakow.
Krakow?
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
so we're just giving you a taste. That's why some of
Yes.
the things
Good. Good.
here
Good.
are a bit scattered today.
Hmm.
The data model. Let me pull up the right screen.
We will record this session, guys. So if you're not in Krakow, um, we will have it. But definitely for Q&A, try to come over Krakow and meet Rowie, because I think that's the best way, and afterwards to network. So yeah.
Mhm. Fantastic. So this is the data model. As mentioned, we've got the left side. This is the acquisition side. Awareness,
Uh-huh.
education, selection. For those of you who are following or using the classical sales and marketing funnel, we just tilted the funnel on its side.
Yeah, like tofu, mofu, bofu style,
Exactly.
right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly that. On the right side, we're adding everything that takes on the right side. Now, in a recurring revenue business, this is where we left off. In a recurring revenue business, recurring revenue is a result of recurring impact. What do we
Mm-hmm.
mean by that? We know that we're not making money, usually, we're not making any profit on a customer if we just keep them just for one contract period. We need
Mm-hmm.
to have them renew with us 2, 3, 4, and hopefully five, depending on the go to market motion. But let's say 5 periods in order to become a successful, to be considered a successful company. And when you think of it, that takes place on the left, on the right side of the bow tie. This is on the right side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Most companies, if they don't have and understand that transition, that recurring revenue takes place on the right side of the bow ties,
Mm-hmm.
continue to focus on only an acquisition and not putting enough focus on what happens after the customer signs with us.
Yeah, and they're
So,
chasing for new business all the time, burning money on ads, and trying to bring in into the funnel in the typical vertical, style, while the retention and recruiting happens there. Is it because it's harder? How do you guys see it? Is it harder to manage the right side of the bow tie than the left side, or
no,
why
it's
is
actually cheaper and it
it?
comes at a fraction of the costs. Like CS can manage more accounts and usually their salaries are lower than account
Yeah,
executives.
yeah, yeah. It's overlooked. Yeah.
It's overlooked. And why is that? Because okay, that's another subject. It was all about grow at all costs mindset.
Mm-hmm.
In the happy days, when everybody was buying, money was cheap,
Yeah.
there it was a race to get to IPOs, and the way to get to an IPO is to focus on growth. And that external growth, or sorry, is that rapid growth, this is what caused higher valuations. And growth was always considered what is coming from new business, new logos. However, in a sustainable company, they understand that our revenue, most of our revenue is coming from customers that renew with us. And when you think of it, 80% of the revenue of your ARR on average comes from your existing customers. It's only that 15 to 20% that is coming from new customers. So if we focus only on that 20% and we neglect that 80%, we've got a leaky bucket. And basically, we're putting more logos, but we're churning too many of them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we have the data model. What would be next in terms of models? Just a overview of like helicopter view mainly.
Yeah, yeah,
We
fantastic. Let
can
me
go through
think.
these, yeah, because I'm aware of time. So
Mm-hmm.
if we can go through the models and then obviously at the event in Krakow, you go in more detail. We will
Yeah,
also make some articles, so it's transcripts and notes from those talks. So you guys can get everything in terms of insights. But for now, just to have a helicopter view, right? You were a helicopter pilot, so it fits a lot.
yeah, fantastic. Yeah, so this is it. We talked about briefly at the revenue model, which is the first, like getting the pricing and understanding how we're going to monetize the product. We talked
Mm-hmm.
about the data model.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the growth model.
Mm-hmm.
A very interesting one, which we will dive deeper when we meet next week, is the go-to-market model.
Okay, this one is when you, depending on what revenue model you have, meaning I mean user base or ARR or MRR,
Mhm.
um, and you need to choose the right GTM for that revenue model. So they're linked somehow, right?
Yeah, they're absolutely linked, but they're also linked when you think about the revenue model.
Mm-hmm.
It's also linked to what are you selling, who are you selling to, etc. So there are different go-to-market that are dependent on a lot of other factors besides the revenue model.
Okay, and they can be applied also for non-SaaS because we might have some software houses that have maybe a recurring model or, but basically you decide what's the revenue model in the first in the first
That's right.
part, right? And doesn't really matter if you are a SaaS business. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, that's right. I had a guy 2 days ago reach out to me.
Mm-hmm.
He runs a house cleaning service,
Okay.
and he told me that he's using the data model, which is fantastic.
Nice.
Right? So, how does he upsell? How does he retain? Like it's cleaning service, so it's like there's a retention part, a renewal part, expansion part. So I can clean your house, but I can also clean your garden or take care of your garden. So yeah, he's using that model. So
I mean, if it's recurring, yeah, who
yeah,
cares?
yeah. So it's these model work 100% on recurring revenue businesses. For service companies that are in a lot of cases not recurring, I would say most of it works, but not all of that. And I'm saying that from our perspective, winning by design, we are at the end of the day, we're a service company, and we use a lot of this, but not everything works plug and play to
Mm-hmm.
anything that is not recurring revenue.
Uh, and then if we go into mathematical model, which sounds a bit hard or
That's right.
stressful because of the mathematical part.
Yeah, that's usually we need a few hours. So
Yeah.
don't get along. We're probably going to just talk about one element of the mathematical model. This is more a theoretical model,
Okay.
understanding truly how recurring revenue businesses operate.
Mm-hmm.
But the more interesting one is the operating model.
Okay.
These are all the frameworks that we have in order to implement a sustainable business.
Got it. And could you show us just a sneak peek of these? Because we have 5 more minutes of these GTM model, just to understand again a high level, or even maybe the operating model, because I'm aware that we can go into then winning by design resource pages and start reading. I mean, Jacob wrote the book of revenue architecture, so we can a bit inspire people to get
Mhm.
dive deeper with the books and everything into that. But
Yep.
okay, so this is the GTM model, right?
Yes, this is the GTM model. I think this is
Mm-hmm.
a fantastic model to give you some guidance on what is the right go-to-market model based on the ACV, annual contract value.
Okay.
And what we have here are different go-to-market models, and they're usually packaged by no touch, low touch, medium touch, high touch, and dedicated touch.
Oh, that's nice. Mm-hmm.
And underneath that, what does the sales, marketing, and customer success, what is the proper motion to
Mm-hmm.
support each one of those touches?
Okay, so you're not doing necessarily a lot of self-serve or community when you have named accounts and when you have
That's right. That's right.
but in PLG you could do community. This is what it tells us in a way,
Yeah,
right?
that's exactly it. And I use this the same example. So let's say your clients buy from you, and on the horizontal axis are the ACV ranges. So let's say they buy $500,000 products and above.
Mm-hmm.
Customer success is you have a dedicated CS by account. So probably 1-to-1 ratio, even a few CSMs supporting each one of those accounts. This is what the customer expects. You cannot support them using a community. A community
Yeah, yeah,
motion means like, hey, just Google it and yeah, you'll find an answer there or in Reddit or whatever the right forum is. So when customers buy from you at that amount, they expect to have a dedicated resource to help them use and extract the insight impact from the product.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Again, we're just touching on this. We're going to go much deeper when we meet next week.
And just another question regarding verticals, like would the GTM is the GTM model fixed or it changes depending on the vertical, meaning a professional service might have a different GTM model, right? Like this whole model could change because the whole dynamics of a GTM of a, I don't know, software house is different than for a SaaS, right?
That's
Because
right.
I'm thinking out loud. Um, in the golden era, before this whole recession in the startup world, there was a huge demand in developers, right? So these software houses were selling actually the experts, the technical experts for the startups, right? And they would have different recurring packages, different kind of revenue model, but they could get really high deals from inbound, right? Or even from, because the demand was so high, right? They
Mhm.
didn't really need to have that field sales maybe or target or segment because they just had the demand. But now the model, I suppose, changes because the demand is not there anymore. So is this also fluid, or how does it look like?
So this is not exact science, right? You see, we're breaking down between 5,000 and 15,000, and there
Yeah,
are always trends, right? So, for example, no touch, which is another way to say PLG. We don't have a
yeah, yeah,
sales
yeah.
team.
Hmm.
The buyers, the customers do the buying process themselves, self-serve. It changes now. It's very trendy, so it's probably increasing. So the width there increases over 5,000. um, there's outbound there. We are probably all aware of the conversations happening. Is outbound dead, right? So assuming maybe less companies want to do that.
Yeah.
This model is based on the economics behind that, the unique economics. So how much do you need, can you pay for salaries in order to support your customers?
Hmm.
Now, the big difference is in service companies, you said software houses, there are the margins are very different between software houses and
Yeah, true.
SaaS companies, right? SaaS companies, you want to have, I don't know, gross margin of 70, 80, 90%. And now coming from a service company, our margins are completely different.
Hmm.
So that is probably would change the model here. It wouldn't change how it's built. It will just change the annual contract value because our margin is different.
Hmm. Got it. Got it. Okay, so I don't know. Do you want to show us one slide from mathematical, or we keep it
We'll keep it now because it will take
for
me
the
time
event?
to explain what the mathematical model actually
Yeah, I think that's
means.
the longest,
Yeah.
right? Cool. And just to understand, the operating model is basically how we implement this GTM model. Is that correct?
Everything. How do you how all the models come together in the processes that we implement and introduce to our in our companies.
Okay, got it. Cool. Okay, guys. So what we will do is shoot your questions if you will have before the event, so we can also prepare. I wanted to do this webinar to do a prep, to do an introductions for the models, and for you guys to know who you will talk to in Krakow. For the guys that will not join us, still give us the questions. We will make sure that we will try to put it in the agenda or to send you some kind of insights from the event. And that's about it. So thanks a lot. And it was a short one, but I hope intense one. And you learned nice new things here. I will put also in the chat the resources for winning by design. So um, thanks a lot, Rowie.
Yeah, my pleasure. Looking forward to meeting you all on
See
site.
you.
Thank you.
Take care.